Welcome to Business Doctor. Today we will be discussing about change management. The change management comes in real life, not only in real life but also in an organization, in a family, in a society, in an environment. The importance of change management comes from the fact that there is a time element which is going to drive the change, and there will be some impact associated with the change, and it is absolutely necessary for measuring the impact. The benefits to the society in the shortest possible time by offering products and generate profits to prolong the offering would be a major driving factor in case of an organization. So let's discuss about what is change management, then why we need a change, what is the meaning of result of a change, and what do we do with the change. After knowing all these things, we should also know how the change has got an impact as regards to barriers, that is, barriers to change. First, let's discuss about the definition of change. Change management is the process of developing a planned approach to change in an organization. Typically, the objective is to maximize the collective efforts of all the people involved in the organization towards the change. Change management is an organized, systemic application of knowledge, tools, and the resources of change that provide the organization with a key process to achieve their business strategy. So now let's talk about the need for change. So the first need comes based out of the pain areas the organization is going through in the current situation. This could be based on the pressures from technology obsolescence or new technology coming into force, or there is a global competition or a local competition, and there is a total change in the market, the way people consume, the way people look at your products or services. So how do we measure the result of this change? Result has got two factors. One is the quality of the solution, and the second is the acceptance of the solution. So the result is basically a multiplication of these two factors, that is quality of solution and acceptance of the solution. So in order to get a better result, both factors like quality of solution and acceptance of the solution both need to be at the highest level. For example, if the quality of solution is 0.9 and acceptability is 0.8, the result will be obviously less than the either of two is 0.72, which is lower than either of these two values. So the aim of the change is to maximize the quality of solution and the acceptance of the solution. The success can be visualized only by getting the highest results or highest possible results, and the people who are in charge of the change should have a clear-cut visualization in terms of the market or the business or the purpose of the change. Then we need to define the configurations which are going to have the impact or the rules of the game which are subjected to change. So the planner of the change should also know the new configurations which are applicable for the product or the service or the delivery. The change is inevitable and it is going to happen whether you like it or not. And the only way you can be positive about the change is to identify these configurations and better plan for how these configurations can be put into use. So for that, the person responsible for the change should not just be a responsible person or an accountable person. You should be the leader of the change. So the leader has to know what are the things he is going to lead. So there are three types of people who are associated with the change. One is the creator, the other one is the follower, the third one is totally insensitive to the change proposed by the leader. So the leader has to be in a position to identify who can create this change and who are all the people who are going to follow this change. So the steps for change management would be like recognizing the need for change, leading the change, and not only just leading the change, somebody has to be part of the change, then they have to sustain the change. So let's come to the barriers to change. Barriers means it's a resistance to change. It can be an attitude, or it can be a kind of disturbance, or the kind of fear people are going through, or it's a perceived problem they think that the change is going to bring upon them. So that's it. There is a taxonomy of resistance, why resistance varies at different levels or various levels in an organization. So the attitude by a top management person would be different from the attitude displayed towards the change by the lower order management staff. So the resistance to change is going to be a major factor. Then people learn, but there is a helplessness, they can't do something, or things are passive, or there is a bureaucracy, things are not happening in the way they want it. So there is a kind of helplessness which is also affecting the change implementation. Or people learn, but they learn it only to an extent which is not good enough for making the change. Like there is a partial learning or off-bug learning, or they started learning something but they dropped off. So it could be any of those learning which are not fulfilling to the purpose of the change. The At the higher level, the change could be having a problem like it is a tunnel vision. Like they don't see the full thing; they only see whatever they wanted to see. And once they come out of that, then the whole world is different, and they think it's going to be a failure, or there is a problem with the system, or some unexpected things are happening which is going to impact. The other human behavior to the change is basically the loyalties. There are groupisms within the organization. People are loyal to some bosses, people are loyal to some colleagues. So that kind of loyalties will also have an impact on the implementation of these changes. So how do we measure the readiness of the change? So there should be a mechanism by which the change readiness is assessed and continuously monitored and evaluated, and any corrections thereupon need to be implemented. So the first is the threat to job security. People think that okay, this change is going to put me off. So that's a major threat people see in an organizational change. The other important aspect is that because of this change, they think that there is they may not get the required knowledge which they have been getting it before. So there is a perceived loss of expertise because of the new change. Or they have a difficulty in learning new things, so it gets into a truncated learning, or partial learning, something like that. So there is a challenge to learning new skills, which we see in common after a particular level. Or the influence or the authority of the hierarchy within the organization that gets shifted, and thereby whether they are able to give their full results towards the change perspective, or the way they communicate. For example, they think that they are going to communicate as a superior or with a bossism in mind. So it is going to put off the other people who are going to receive the communication. So it is going to have an issue there. The other important aspect in the change readiness assessment is that loss of status. Okay, people may think that yeah, my role is getting diluted, or I'm not viewed as a senior person, or I'm not viewed. I may stand to lose the status because of this change, or it might impact somebody's habit. Like for example, somebody is going to change the office time, or having to go to have a shifts in the organization. So it is going to have an impact on their habits. Okay, somebody has to stay in the night, or somebody has to come up early in the morning. So it is going to have an impact in the change. Sorry, an impact in their habits, which are going to have an impact on the change. Or people have not been educated enough on the implications of the change. So there is a fear, and the, due to that fear, people won't have a acceptance or a tolerance to change. So it will be a low tolerance scenario where people say, no, don't come to me, I know everything, so I'm not for this kind of a change. So having seen these kind of risk, so how do we manage the difficulties? The difficulties come from engagement or disengagement. Basically, there is a loss of initiative and commitment from an employee, or there is a withdrawal or quitting behavior, or a sense of mental resignation from the work, though they will be physically employed or doing their work, but there is a withdrawn symptoms. Or it could be a kind of disidentification, that my identity is lost. So, but I used to be like this, but today, unfortunately, the organization is not giving me this. So these are all the kind of difficulties the employees will be facing. Or it could be even a orientation, disorientation of their thinking, like I'm lost, I'm confused, I don't know what to do, and I don't know which one to do first, and nobody is there to tell me what I should do next. So there is a disorientation in the way people do things, and there is of course an enhancement level where they get completely disenhanced. So that means they feel that okay, somebody has taken a revenge for doing something, so that's why I'm put into this kind of work. So they feel it is a revenge, or they sometimes they feel that they are a victim of something. So the scenarios, if you really look at why such kind of change is required. For example, there is a mergers and acquisition, which is common nowadays. So people get repositioned in a different role, or getting out of the job, or going to a lower level, or given a higher authority but not with enough direction, or there is an ambiguity in the work, or there is no excitement, or there is no new opportunities, or nothing to learn, and maybe I may be a winner or a loser. The whole change with the new mergers and acquisitions. The other possible scenario is that the new management has come, the new CEO or my new boss has come. So he is going to propose new strategies, new rules, new priorities. So it will be very difficult for me to again build my relationship, or by building my credibility with the person. And there is because of this, I'm going to be pressurized on the performance, and I need to fulfill. So there is a fear coming out of this as well. So there is a Sometimes what happens is that there is an organizational change which quite periodically some organizations do, maybe once in a year or something like that. So what will happen, the power game shifts between one person to another person, or one role to another role, or one department to another department. So there is a loss of power for me or my team, or I need to build a new network. How it is going to be possible in a time frame? It might not be applicable, or it might not be possible for me to do that. Why should I do that? Or I may not like the rules or new rules, or anything that is being new policies for that matter. So I may be a bit averse to those kind of policies. So again, there is a resistance to change in that aspect as well. The other one important is from the customer's perspective. Customer is creating a problem, and there is a crisis, and the crisis comes quite often, or there is an uncertainty coming out of customers. Either the customer is giving sometimes the tough time, or the company is losing customers because of some other problem, which means there is a huge pressure on the employees in terms of, okay, how do we manage the loss of customers, or the turbulence in an organization. How to, when there is a turbulence or when there is a loss of customer, obviously the management will look at redundancies in an organization, and how do they how do they manage the redundancy, whether I will be impacted or not. So there is a fear of unemployment. So that's on the one side. The other side, on the exactly on the opposite side, the organization is going for a rapid growth. Suddenly, I have to grow from here to here at the shortest possible time. So there is a rapid growth plan. So because of this rapid growth, what happens is that, okay, I may be a king in a small organization, but with this kind of growth, I may lose my identity. So what shall I do? Or there will be a chaos, and I don't know how to manage the chaos. So, or there may not be a proper organization during the rapid growth phase. So how do we manage? Or if things go out of control, will I be taking the accountability or responsibility, or what should I be doing? So these kind of organizational changes will also put pressure on the employees or the management, and for that matter, everybody in the organization. The critical success factor, let's discuss about that for a minute. So to have a better change management in an organization, the first and foremost would be a common mission. It should be clear, big picture, with everybody involved, knowing that what would be their future position, how the vision is going to be achieved. So that is the first step in the vision. Then the management effort has to be unified, which means that everybody in the organization should support each other, they should sign up, they should agree on, they should commit for that purpose. The third is the concerns. Well, see, obviously there will be concerns coming out of the employees, out of departments, out of the processes, out of customers. It could be coming from any quarters. So how do we voice those concerns? Should we have a proper structure? And how do we address that concern? How do we reassure the employees, or how do we reassure the customers, or how do we reassure the investors? That's very important in that. Then the fourth one, which is basically a kind of content. How do we manage the content? Like, you may be in a particular business, you may be in a software, you may be in a manufacturing, you may be in trading. So how do we manage the content? The content is very critical. The content will also have some business critical issues. So how do we manage with the right set of people? How do we manage? How do we motivate this right set of people? So all these things, will get into the content. So we should have a right process, right tools. Everything should be there. So process management will be a very important aspect in the change management. Then the time scale. Okay, how much time scale we plan. Okay, which is, for example, if you are going to plan for, let's say, 3 months or 6 months, Okay, whether that's a realistic time scale or is it going to be a longer time, like 6 months or 1 year or 2 years. So having a right set of timeline is very very important, and get the right set of resources to do that kind of a change. That is very very important. The next aspect is that when something goes wrong, how do you manage the contingency? A contingency plan is as critical as any other planning element. And when the contingency happens, how do we respond to that? That's a that's a that's a challenge for every organization. And so that if they are able to better plan it, then the change management is easier. Then the important aspect is the communication. How do we communicate? How do we ensure that everybody in the change participates and they get briefed about what is going on? That's a transparency. And if there is a problem, then how do we restore the faith in the system so that people don't go wild, and they just stay focused on the purpose of the change. That is the vision. We need also systems like the reporting, the training, and how do we manage the timelines, and without blaming, of course. So we need a proper system by which the change can be effective. Once having done all these changes, people have committed to promise, people have observed the vision, people have got everything, whatever the management or the leader of the change wanted them to do. So the other important aspect is that they have to be given the right kind of rewards and recognition. It could be a financial, or it could be a kind of satisfaction, like in terms of the certificates, like they are able to make an impactful life on the customer or the organization. So the rewards and recognition has got an even important role in recognizing the outcome of the change executed by the staff. So if we are going to reward and recognize those employees who have successfully contributed to the change, which also means that the employees need to be the best of people for the right kind of role, the right kind of skill set, and they should be having the right kind of involvement and commitment, and supporting the entire leadership from vision to this reality. So, having said all these things, it is equally important for an organization to measure. Only if it is measured, then it can be controlled. So, the measurement means that there is a performance indicator, or that the performance have to be tracked. That means we should have quantifiable, trackable indicators, realistic indicators, progress indicators, and there should be a proper project management or a project execution team which is going to have a complete leadership of the change process. So the change transition curve, if you really look at, the first stage would be like, okay, there's a kind of shock, and oh, what to do? I'm completely, I'm immobile. So which means that okay, I don't know what to do. Then the second stage would be like, okay, it cannot happen to me, so I can't do that, and how can it that happen to me? So there's a denial, there is a disbelief, there is a kind of shock arising out of that. The third thing is that people start sensing that okay, it is going to create a problem for me because I'm not that competent, or I'm not that competent person, competent enough, or I feel guilty or depressed why it is happening, etc. The stage four is that yeah, I understand things have changed and I think it has to be like that. So I'm just started accepting the reality, like yeah, it is going to happen and the change is inevitable. So that's a fourth stage. The next one would be like, okay, why don't I try that? Okay, what happens? I'll try to rationalize, I'll try to experiment that, and why don't I do something, a bit of it? Let me try. The next step, which is the sixth step, is that okay, whatever I am trying, okay, what is the meaning of that? Whether it will have an impact to me, to the organization, and to the customers or to the employee or society at large. So then I start accepting to reconcile the need that yeah, the change is required, so why don't I try? Then the seventh stage is that yes, mentally I am prepared, the change has been completed, okay, I'm now comfortable, I am ready to go for this change. So this is how the person's transition curve will happen. And to effectively monitor that, there should be a change control board which is going to change the entire life cycle of the change, and at the different levels of the organization, taking into consideration of the impacts resulting out of contractual could be with the customer, or contractual with the employee, or with the government. There is a legality in terms of labor laws, or illegality in terms of a lot of procedures laid by the government. Then there is also a time and cost and effort kind of impact, because it is going to disturb the current setup, right? So there is need to be a cost control. So the change control mechanism should effectively monitor the effort, cost, and time implication, and in terms of prioritization and risk. So if all these things are done in a structured way, then the vision to reality is possible in an organization. Thank you for listening to Business Doctor. Have a great day.